as I'm doing these Excel problems, I realized there's a lot of different permutations and ways to do the Excel problems. Looking for the future value, the payment, the rates, all those sorts of things. Make sure that you look at your answers in your homework. Make sure that you work out as many problems as you can. Look at the examples in the book. The more you do these things, the better you'll be. And continue to review these. One thing I want to re-emphasize from last time is when you do the round function, make sure you have equals round and you put the comma 4 in there. And again, you can either point to the cell where you did the function, the evaluation computation, or you can put the computation right in there. So either way, but for the purposes of the exam, round 4. Now I'm going to start out by looking at the holding period return. The holding period return, you'll recall, was we're trying to measure what our return was over a particular period of time. So let's suppose we beginning value, we have an ending value. Let's suppose our beginning value is 55 and our ending value went up in price, it's 62. Our holding period return then is equal to the ending value, 62, minus the beginning period, 55. So that's how much money we made, divided by what we started with. And they found a typo. I forgot the missing parentheses. Parentheses are important, very important in this. Okay, so let me show you what that looks like again. This is actually the different cells that move the cells down a little, but you get the idea. The ending period divided by minus the beginning period divided by the beginning value. All right, let's move on. How do we value stocks? Let's pick the value of a stock. So for common stock, the valuation is equal to, let's just put this in here, we're looking at value. When we look at value, we want the price. Price is equal to the dividend in the next period divided by required rate of return minus the growth rate. Growth factor. Okay? So we can say, let's suppose we have a stock that pays a dividend of $2. I'm going to put all this stuff in and then I'll come back. Okay, I'm back. I set this up, so we assume that it pays $2 in dividends. The next dividend will be $2. I require a rate of return of 8%. And the growth factor for the stock is 6%. So let's just put that in this equation. And I also named the cell, so it's going to be easier for you. So it's going to be equal to the dividend divided by, and do not forget the parentheses, the required rate minus the growth factor. Ooh, that stock's worth $100. Or another way to say it is, I am willing to pay $100 for that stock. Let's suppose that stock was priced right now at $95. Would I buy that stock? I would buy that stock. It's worth $100 to me, but I can buy it for $95. That's a good deal. If the price was $100 on the market, $110 say on the market, I wouldn't buy that stock. Right? It's overpriced. It's not worth $110 to me. Let's work a bond problem. Okay, I've set up a bond problem. This bond has a par value of 10. It matures in 10 years. Oh, sorry, has a par value of 1,000. Matures in 10 years with an interest rate of 5%. Notice again, I've named the cells. See up here, par, maturity, interest. That makes our formulas when we do them much easier to see. So let's do this. Let's calculate the value of the bond. In other words, what price am I willing to pay for that? Oh, I need one more piece of information. I need to know my required rate of return. What do I want? And let's suppose I want we'll do this again, 0.06%. Oops. I want 6% return. And I'm going to name this one required rate. So what's this worth? Anytime you say, what is it worth? I'm looking for the price or the present value. So the present value of the rate. This is my required rate of return, which will be this rate. But remember, bonds pay twice a year. So the rate I'm going to use in here is half of that. I'm only taking 6 months period, so I don't need the full year rate of return. I only need half of the rate of return. Number of periods, well, I know it's going to be my 10 here times 2 because I get paid twice a year. Why do I keep doing 8? The advantage of this is you get to see that lots of people make mistakes. All right, so my required rate of return is half of the rate at least I put in here is half of my required rate of return. My maturity is twice as many periods. Right? Got to think now in 6 months periods. The payment, well, the payment is going to be the interest times the par value. But remember that gets paid twice a year. So I'm going to divide that by 2. And I have no future value, so I can just stop it there. So what's the value of that bond? I'm willing to pay $371.94. Okay. Negative. Again, I can make this a positive number by putting the negative sign or changing the values inside. So that's the formula that I put, the present value for calculating the value of a bond. It's simply the present value of annuity. All right. Let's review 2 more things. I want to review the expected rate of return. Remember the expected rate of return. This is when we are looking at an investment that has a range of possible returns. And I set it up here, so here's a range of possible returns that you could have. Over here is the probability of each of those returns. So there's a 50% probability of getting 10% return. There's a 10% probability of getting 8%. There's a 3% probability of 4%. And there's a 10% probability that I could lose 20%. What do I expect from this? What is my expected rate of return? Well, what it is it's equal to, this is going to be a little bit complicated, but it's the possible return, that possible return, times its probability, plus the next guy, its possible rate of return, times its probability. And I'm going to continue. So I just went through and I continued to do that all the way through. So I took the possible return times the probability of 1, added it to the next, added to the third, added to the fourth. And that's what we get. So I do that. My expected rate of return is going to be 5%. I'll just copy that so you can see it again. Well, it moves all the things, so it doesn't quite look right, but you get the pattern here. Right? I'm going to work one more. Let's take a look at the weighted beta. Let's suppose we have a portfolio that has a lot of different stocks. What's the beta of that? Okay, here I set up an example of doing a weighted beta. So I have a portfolio that's got 4 stocks in it. These are the betas of those 4 stocks. So stock 1 has a beta of 1.1, stock 2 has a beta of 1.2. This is my allocation. So 50% of my portfolio is in stock 1, 10% in stock 2, 30 in 3, and 10% in stock 4. And I then want to calculate the weighted beta of the portfolio. So if this is what I've got, these 4 stocks, what's the beta of this portfolio? Well, it's simply the beta of the stock times the percent allocation in it. It's just like the expected returns. Take a look. There they are. So you take the beta times the percent allocation of one stock, the beta times the percent allocation of the other stock, and all the way through. And I get the beta of my portfolio is 1.05. One last topic, complex payments. Let's suppose you have a stock that, or some investment that does something like 100, 100, 100, 150, 100, 150. How do you calculate the present value of that? One thing to notice is that you can either take the present value of this number plus the present value of that number plus the present value of that plus the present, of 1 period, 2 period, 3 period. That's the hard way. The easier way is to say, look, this is really a portfolio that's got 100, 100, 100, 100, not a portfolio, sorry. It's an annuity. 100. So I have this annuity, 100, but I got these extra little bits here. So I also have this 50 and 50. So what I can do is the value of this crazy annuity, this crazy payment stream, is the present value of this annuity plus the present value of that plus the present value of that. So I take 3 calculations. Okay, and here's the formula to calculate that. Let's suppose my required rate of return is 7%. So the present value of this first column here, it's an annuity, 7% for 6 periods of $100. All right, well, that takes care of the 100, but now I have to add to that the present value of this 50. So take the 7% required rate of return. It's 4 periods out, 1, 2, 3, 4 periods out. There's no payments, but there is just the future value. So I'll take that. And I do the same thing for this last 50 sitting out there. Required rate of return is 6%. It's now 6 periods out, no payments, just that future value of 50 that I'm counting. All right. So if I do that, I should get a present value of $548. Again, eyeball it to see if it makes sense to you. Well, it's, if this came out to be $5,000, you're clearly off. It came out to be $50 or $100, you're clearly off. $500 kind of makes sense. Right? All right, so hopefully this helps you. If you have questions, send me email. And good luck on the test.